Hello and welcome to this episode of Digitally. I'm really excited for this conversation because almost 2 years after generative AI propelled one of the most disruptive technologies for enterprises and has broadened how we think about artificial intelligence and how we bring it into play, we continue to see significant excitement. There's numbers around trillions, almost $2.5 to $5 trillion of potential GDP impact. Even this year alone, venture capital, which is part of the work I do, is on track to invest over $12 billion. And even more importantly, the enterprises that we serve and the ones I get a chance to work with are investing significantly, fundamentally, and strategically in AI. But here's the real rub. It's easy to see what you can do with generative AI. It's very hard to figure out what you should do with generative AI. And the reason, and that's not a play on words, the reason that's true is because the pilot to production journey is actually a very hard journey. And I want to unpeel that today with someone who's not a futurist necessarily, who isn't a venture capitalist in his real career, who's not a startup entrepreneur, not an economist, not a societal watchdog. He's someone who's got his fingers in the pie, he's in a large enterprise deploying artificial intelligence at scale, and then running into all of the day-to-day challenges and opportunities that you and I are likely to see as we go headlong in that. I met him on an innovation tour in Cambridge. I was there recently, and I was struck by his insight and the real life on the job working knowledge. And so a real pleasure, I wanted to invite Kabir Patel. As is always the case with these discussions, his opinions in a few minutes are going to be his, not necessarily reflective of the corporation. But I want to get you a sense for who he is, what he does, and what he's learning so we can learn together as a group. With all of that said, Kabir, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, Sanjay. Always a pleasure to have an interesting conversation with you.
Thank you for that. We're going to dive right in. And I want to start first off, why are we even interested in the topic? What is the potential here?
AI for us, and as we all know, the hype is real. We see a step change in how technology can enable the large business goals and objectives. For example, if you talk about life sciences and healthcare, the way we diagnose patients and detect diseases, that is getting a step change in how that works. How we can use image-based data and large-scale data coming from different sources to get diagnosis right and early. This can solve massively the health equity crisis that we all face. Also, the way we discover and develop drugs, right from identifying the potential drug targets to designing the right molecules, is a huge change for all of us. But finally, the one that really impacts us in everyday life is how work gets done, how AI becomes your co-pilot in pretty much everything you are doing. And those things are in early days, but that's where we will see a huge shift in coming years.
So future of health and drug discovery, this whole bit about inclusiveness and equity in health outcomes. And I think the bit about here and now, business process, transformation, getting work done, future work. Let's pick through some of this. And I want to actually dial the clock back or change the aperture, if you will, to here and now. What are some of the challenges you're running into as you bring that vision into practice in the context of a large enterprise?
Some of the biggest challenges with AI as we see them and the journey from POCs or pilots to production is real for all of us. The first one is data. Every AI use case is a data scenario. Every AI journey to production has data as a critical path. So our ability to use our existing data sets and making sure they are of quality, available, consumable in a way that can drive the applications is a challenge. Equally, nowadays, we are seeing data that is different. A lot of unstructured data, a lot of data sets that we never thought we need to combine together to achieve the value proposition is another challenge. So together with how to get quality data sets and how to get the newer data formats work for AI remains a critical activity for all of us.
And yet, Kabir, would you say that AI is also an opportunity in getting that foundation of data put in place and get it structured and classified? And
sure, like if you want to like look at how we solve the issue as well, a lot of time it comes down to kind of data architectures you have. Have you got the right data products? Have you got a right organizational structures with right data offices in place? Have you got a process to not only get the data right with the right quality, but keep it right going forward? So those are the important aspects of how to build a organization with the right data foundation at it. But equally, you
Love
could
it.
use AI to use and improve your data quality. Use AI to drive some of the improvements that can help with data becoming the asset you always wanted it to be. So a lot of things there to solve, but equally one of the biggest challenges to address.
Got it. Okay. What else?
The second big area that usually becomes a topic is processes. And I think there are like two ways to look at that problem. Either you apply AI to your current processes, or you reimagine them and design processes around how AI can do a step change. And a lot of times when we see AI being applied to current processes, they result in certain automation, but you can never really fully unlock the potential that was there. I think this idea of reimagining processes is fundamental, getting really obsessed with the problem you want to solve, and then look at AI as an enabler is a key mindset shift that is needed for AI to work at scale.
I love that part. I mean, there's so much capital that's being thrown around right now. And your point about start with a reimagined process and start with a question really, and then figure out how AI fits in and enables it, as opposed to start with the answer, which is, hey, I've got AI. Let me now figure out a place to put it in, which kind of allows you to automate something, but doesn't get you the right results. I love that point.
Yeah, I think people need to get into a culture of being more obsessed with the problem than the solution. I think solution part is much easier when you absolutely figure out the problem.
I love that. Okay, perfect. Stay with the problem longer than you are otherwise comfortable, and then you'll end up with a better answer. I love that. I love that point.
Mhm.
What is that it? Or is there another thing that comes to mind that is like a real burning challenge today as all of us try and deploy AI at scale?
I think the final one that one could focus on is the journey of change and skills. I think a lot of organizations currently have a skill sets that needs a uplift. You almost want to have a digital uplift of your skills, maybe upskilling, reskilling, getting the right data literacy, AI literacy back embedded with their roles, because the knowledge worker of tomorrow is not the knowledge worker of today. There is a huge shift coming in what they really need to do and what skills they need to get work done. The change management is equally important aspect of the journey to production, because right from ability to absorb the new ways of working, the reimagining process, to the fears and sometimes the confusion that comes from what it means for my role, my job going forward, those aspects needs to be addressed upfront rather than afterthought. A lot of times good products fail because not they were bad products, they were managed badly at scale.
So I think you've given us some great things to think about. If you had one or two sentences on any examples from your life on what has worked in solving for these problems. I think data you talked about quite a bit, and your point about data products is the right one. But when you think about skills and change management, like, is there something you've tried that you want to share with us that we could put into play, or maybe even on the other topic around process design?
I think change management is never easy, but to start with, people should consider it as equally as important of a discipline as building the product. A lot of times people think change management just happens, and when that is the starting point, it usually never works. But what helps with is a design plan to how to change things, how not to change it overnight, but with certain steps, like which all lead to the same objective, working very closely with the underlying user or the end receiver of value, and creating a win-win situation where they see this as an enabler to their roles and jobs and what work they do, rather than a disruptor.
What I loved about this conversation so far, Kabir, is notwithstanding my entire career and experience, and frankly, knowing you as a technologist and all of the work you've done previously, the bulk of this conversation has not been around technology. It's actually around people and change management and process and data and design and experience, which is such an important indicator of where we are today. And I love the fact that you took the time to walk us through that. Kabir, I'm going to change gears a little bit. You're obviously
So
still very excited about this, and you're putting a lot of effort and investment, personal energy, and obviously at the corporation driving significant value. What do you see this playing out?
I think we are at an interesting junction where next 2-3 years will be very critical to where we go, because a lot of things are currently being solved for. Big debates out there. Of course, we always worry about regulators and where the whole framework of how regulation should work, what risks we carry, what we don't carry, kind of a problem. Some more interesting ideas out there is how do you monetize this? A lot of AI model depends on a lot of data sets. So do you monetize the output, which is what an AI system produces, or do you monetize or have a say on the inputs and the processing, which is where a big debate is. Personally, if you look at human behavior, we take all inspirations as we grow from all sources, but what we come out with is unique to us. So that's some sort of a direction in which that debate may go. We could literally look at the AI systems the same way. There is a huge potential in where the new technology can help an enterprise in coming years. So, for example, there is a way of looking at this as saying there are 3 tiers. There are models, the applications and infrastructures, or infrastructure and then the applications. The models are becoming more of a commodity as we go. The tools and infrastructure has a lot of value to offer, but the biggest value that an enterprise will get is from the application layer that is still pretty mature and just getting started. And a lot of verticals within each of the enterprise are up for disruption in terms of how we create new AI native applications of the future.
I love it. So I'm going to change gears and talk to my audience just for 30 seconds. Look, these are the words of someone who's where the rubber meets the road. Fingers on keyboards, eyes on screens. He's deploying this at scale at a corporation that is over-investing. I shouldn't say that. That is significantly investing in artificial intelligence as a way to deliver their outcomes. What I got out of this conversation was amazing. I think as much as there is an opportunity, there's a set of things to work through. And some of the biggest learnings I walked away with is get a data foundation and get it right, because without that, you don't really get to outcomes. Make sure you think through process change and design and think about imagining a new process with AI as opposed to applying AI to your current process. I think the third thing I really walked away with is change management, skill set, and really thinking about it intentionally as opposed to after the fact. And then I think Kabir has left us with 2 really good sets of things to keep thinking about and working through. The first one is the regulatory framework, and more broadly, ethics and inclusiveness and how we actually put this into play. And then actually at the same time, this is emerging. This is actually evolving as we speak. How do you think about the landscape? How do you think about the players? How do you think about the investments and the capital allocation you're going to make between, for instance, training a model or inferencing from a model or using a model in the context of an embedded application? And that strategic mindset and being critical about how you're going to allocate your capital investments, I do believe is one of the keys to success. Kabir, we couldn't have done this without you. I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to thank our audience for being with us. Please, as always, let us know on feedback and questions. Both of us are going to be online. Thank you very much. Have a great day.